Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the NAU Sports Show. My name is Casey. I am your host, and thank you for joining me, whether it is live or on replay. It means a lot. Hey, let's do a recap of what happened last week, shall we? So last week, NAU was at Cedar City, Utah, and faced Southern Utah. Overall, it was a really fun game to watch. NAU pulled out the victory. Let me explain how it happened. So the first quarter, it was pretty silent. It was both 0-0. Second quarter, Southern Utah scored 14 points. Right before the half, NAU scored 7. And then right after the half, NAU scored another 7 at the 12-minute mark. Almost at the end of the third quarter, NAU scored another 7 points. And in the beginning of the fourth, NAU scored another 7. 28 unanswered points until the close to the 2-minute mark of the fourth quarter, where Southern Utah scored again, but would not be able to make the 2-point conversion, letting NAU win 28-20 and keeping the Grand Canyon Trophy where it belongs in Flagstaff. Great picture, right? All right. So that means right now NAU is 2-2 going into their home game in Flagstaff, the last game of the season against the Idaho Vandals. Now, this game was supposed to be on, let's see here. This game was supposed to be earlier in the year in March, but due to some issues within the Vandal organization with COVID, that game was rescheduled to tomorrow. With that, let's get into this game on Saturday. And I bring you the man who knows it all about Vandal football, Mr. Chris Hammond of Tubs at the Club. How are you, Chris?
Fantastic. Hello to everybody in Lumberjack Nation. Excited to be on. Excited for the season to end for two reasons. One, it's finally over, and two, it's one more week of football.
It is one more week of football. And this is the only Big Sky game that's counting for anything on this weekend. There are two Big Sky games on this weekend, but the other one doesn't count for anything because it's Montana. So, Chris, what's going on? What's new in your world?
Kind of transitioning sports seasons. It is weird having us be like the only show in town right now. It's weird. Like, everybody's eyes are on us, and for all intents and purposes, it means everything to these teams. I believe both teams have their first chance at a 500 season. I think NAU's 2017 and Idaho would be 2016. So, for these two teams, there's something to play for. For everybody watching, interesting. But I think more people are still going to tune in than the exhibition game between the Vikings and the Grizzlies.
Right, definitely. Who wants to watch Portland State?
According to Bobby Houck and Colton Nuanez of ESPN Missoula, they're a top 4 program.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That was so. Shout out to ESPN Missoula, Big Sky Podcast Network from the Grizz Fan Pod. Mike Nugent was on today, and he said, I think you're going to have to defend that take because I think a lot of the people that follow the Big Sky specifically would say, how the hell is Portland State a top 4 program?
Yeah.
I think we can both be honest about our teams, right? I think they're somewhere in the mix with us. And unfortunately, this year, we are not top 4 programs.
We are not. But I still guarantee Portland wouldn't be winning in Flagstaff like the last 15 years.
No, but how great would it be if Portland State took it to Montana this weekend?
I would be happy. I would be happy.
And it's just like you call them a top 4 program and they beat you. And then it's like, so what are you guys?
I was really looking forward before the Big Sky conference changed the spring schedule, NAU was supposed to start the spring off against Montana in Flagstaff. And we have still yet to play Montana after the Case Cookus incident. Yeah, so I really, really want that win against Montana. Bad.
Yeah. Idaho benefited. It's weird to say this. We ended up switching from northern Colorado to eastern Washington, both at home. Pretty sure I would have rather played Eastern this year. Like, I feel bad for whoever opens. Well, I guess no, because it won't be conference season. It would be so weird to be the first team to play Ed McCaffrey and everybody he's brought in. Because unlike, other FCS coaches, like, for instance, when NAU brought in Chris Paul, right? Like, he's been around enough that you've got an idea of what he's going to want to try to do. You can look at previous game film. Like, Ed McCaffrey went straight from, 2 years of coaching high school to head coach of, I'm not saying he's going to be the answer, but I'm saying I definitely didn't want to be the first team to figure out what the heck he was going to do. Would have much rather play Eastern, and that worked out for us just fine as we were able to sneak out the 7-point victory week one against the Beagles.
There you go. All right. So now we all know I just went over what happened last week between Northern Arizona and Southern Utah. So what happened last week between Idaho and Eastern Washington?
So part 2 of Idaho, Eastern Washington, and Cheney. Idaho, you kind of – it's so funny our game was canceled in week 3 for COVID, and really nothing's changed from the Idaho program, a little bit, but basically Idaho's first 3 quarterbacks all had injuries. Their 4th-string redshirt freshman quarterback, let's put it this way, as of Tuesday, was told he could no longer be active and participate in team activities. Now, does that mean COVID? The wise person would say probably. So now Idaho is stuck with 0 active quarterbacks on their roster. So what did they do? They turned to Zach Borish, who you guys will probably see this weekend because the injuries aren't really healed up. And obviously the COVID, that's 14 days. So if he tests positive last Tuesday, he's definitely not ready to go. Pending it's COVID, right? We don't know because they can't disclose, but probably not playing this weekend. So yeah, we have a guy who played quarterback in high school, 3A level in the state of Washington. Decent. I think his senior year, he played pretty good, but he was recruited as an athlete. And he did turn down some offers to go to Idaho, but nobody was offering him quarterback offers. He picked Idaho because we said we'd at least give him a fair shot at quarterback. So, I mean, it's not like he's totally unfounded at the quarterback position, but to put it in perspective, he gray-shirted, then he red-shirted. He was a 3rd-string defensive back last year. This year, he's kind of been flirting between the 4th and 5th-string running back position. I think he had 3 carries going into the game last week before he was quarterback. So, I mean, he's a guy, and I think he proved he's a guy we want to get the ball in the hands of more. But a game against Eastern where he ended up going something like, I don't even know, something like 4 for 11, 5 for 11, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, though he did rush for 2 on the ground. It's going to be interesting. So Idaho did not end up pulling off the upset win against Eastern Washington. However, despite how the Eastern Washington people might act on social media, they did beat a team with 0 active quarterbacks by 7, having to score with 4 minutes left in the game. So we did talk about one heck of a gutsy performance, the number 9 team in the country at their place with a guy who had 3 days of practice at a quarterback, installed a completely new offense, and almost beat the Eagles with no quarterbacks. So if he had got hurt, they already said our other running back was the 2nd stringer, and if it was 3rd string, they had a freshman dude who hadn't seen the field at all that would have played quarterback from wide receiver. So we had nobody. So hopefully that's changed this week. I don't think NAU is going to struggle with us as much as Eastern did because I think the shock and awe of it is all gone. I think we caught Eastern really benefiting from the doubt of Paul Petrino isn't necessarily – he considers himself an offensive genius. Offensive geniuses don't usually like the triple option. So I think rolling in the Cheney They have no idea who the quarterback is, didn't game plan for him, probably don't even know what number he was wearing until he took the first snap. And then we hit you with triple option +1 run technique, kind of like Georgia Southern. They were not prepared for that. And I think we benefited from that. This week, I don't think that will be the case. I think NAU just got a whole game's worth of tape. And I'm sure they've gone and dug up some of his high school tape and have a pretty good idea of what to expect from Zach Borish. That being said, there are rumors that our true starter, Mike Beaudry, may be a game-time decision. So we may have a shot there of Beaudry rolling out tomorrow as the starter.
Okay. All right. Now, what team has continued to look good, has continued to get better and stronger and learn as the weeks progress? Granted, he is still a junior redshirt. He didn't play a whole lot last year. He didn't play a lot in Oklahoma State before he transferred. So once again, he's not a case cookus. I don't expect him to be. But you can see each time he gets on that field and every game, he gets better. Now, when I was on your show earlier on the week, you said something to the thing of, we all know that NAU and Idaho throws the ball. With that said, Idaho is last in the conference for defense against passing. So with that said, how do you think Idaho is going to be able to stop the threat of all these passes that NAU is known to do, especially at home?
So, yeah, it's probably more shocking that our secondary isn't leading the nation in worst pass defense. They have not looked good this year. We have a guy who tried to transfer in Jalen Hoover, who's our starter. He came back late in the year, like right before the season started. The transfer we got from Montana, Darian Nash, opted out of the season. So we're pretty young, and it's showing. I think we're starting 2 or 3 freshmen in the secondary if you include the nickel. And it's bit us a little bit, that's for sure. But what Idaho is going to have to do and what they've been able to do, like you look at Eastern Washington, super effective offense, right? We were able to hold them to 38 points with a brand new offense we already covered. We were able to hold them to 21 points, which is technically 14 from their offense because they got a pick 6. We held UC Davis to 27. Southern Utah did put up 33 or 32. Idaho State only put up 24. So you look, Idaho's defense, though they give up the yards, they're not necessarily – the defense as a whole is still a very strong unit. We have – and I say this in my opinion, I stand by it. I think we have the best front seven in the entire FCS, definitely in the Big Sky. If you look at what Trey Walker and Christian Ellis alone are about to do, they're one of only 2 – I mean, I can't name another team that has 2 NFL draft stock guys on their roster, and Trey Walker is only a junior, a true junior, and Christian Ellis has already announced he'll be not returning in the fall and entering the draft. Christian, not Caden. So we have 2 NFL guys at linebacker. We have another dude who's got the caliber to where he will probably, in Charles Acano, be able to, do the training camps, unrestricted free agent sign. Do I think he's an NFL guy permanently? Probably not, but he still has a year or 2 to prove it too, so he's not really desperate for it. But we run a 3-4 technique. It benefits when we are playing teams such as in Eastern Washington, when you have an Eric Berrier type who benefits and tries to get outside of the pocket and extend plays. That is what Wuti can do, but I wouldn't say from the games I've been able to watch, it's necessarily what he looks to do, which is where I think it's going to hurt Idaho. Idaho has struggled when you look at the games I just went over. Tyler Vanderwall, mobile, but prefers to stand in the pocket and sling it. Justin Miller, Southern Utah, mobile, but prefers to stand in the pocket and throw it. Eric Berrier, probably going to win the Walter Payton this year. Likes to get outside of the pocket, extend plays, and make you make a decision. Are you going to come play me, or I'm going to run it for 20 yards? And or not play me and I'll run it for 20 yards, or you're going to play me and I'll dump it over your head for 15. That doesn't work because of the 3-4. We have the stand-up rushers that are, like I said, NFL caliber guys, and they're able to stay with it. Now, if NAU and Wood T is able to just sit there and get his guys open and not try to extend the plays, take the 3 seconds you're going to get from your offensive line and make the throw. The instant you get to that first or second read and he tries to go, let me see what I can make happen, that's when NAU is going to run into problems. So Wood T, being a transfer, being a more senior statesman on the team, having some game experience, I see him being smart, maybe making those mistakes in the beginning of the game, but long term, I think he's going to put this together and be able to put in a passing performance like a Justin Miller or Tyler Vanderwall against us and really be able to get his groove going, probably going into halftime and then probably the second half. I do think Idaho probably jumps out to an early lead in this one, maybe 7-0, 10-0, 10-3, something like that. And then I think that's where you're going to see the exchanging of haymakers start happening. And I think we're going to have a very similar type game that we did in 2019 where it went to overtime. But I don't necessarily think this goes to overtime or ends up being 68-62 or whatever basketball score we put together in 2019.
It was an absolutely crazy high-scoring game last year.
Yeah.
I definitely want NAU to be on the winning end this year. Definitely want that. I know that Idaho is not Southern Utah. I do. But I also know that Idaho, when they were at home, had issues against Southern Utah up against the last few seconds of the game. NAU was able to completely stop their offense in the second half. Do you see that happening, of NAU being able to completely stop, for the most part, a QB who's not really a QB with Idaho?
Yes. I do not think Idaho's offense is going to be the difference in this game. Maybe in the sense that they're at least going to have to score once. Is it possible we get a pick six with how much NAU is going to look to sling it? Of course. It's always possible in every game, but it doesn't happen very frequently for a reason. The odds of the defense scoring in this are very small. So at some point, yeah, obviously the offense is going to have to put something together. But the way football works, you muff a punt out of bounds or you fumble and we get the ball in the 40. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think we get shut out. But Idaho's offense is not going to be the key to this game. I think we've already touched on it. I think it's going to be our defense. It is going to be, does Wood T try to extend plays and fall into the same mistakes that Barrier does, or does he just stand back and throw? If he stand back and throw, this could easily be a game that NAU could probably win by 14 to 21 points. If he does try to get creative, if he does get to his second read and get fancy feet, the rest of our defense that isn't that back four is going to get to him and cause problems. And if NAU tries to get cute and run the ball, Idaho's defense is holding opposing teams to like 2.1 yards per rush or something. It's not a team you want to run on. So it's going to come down to Wood T. I think 100% it's going this game. The key linchpin to this game is Wood T, because you already know how to beat Idaho's defense. Just execute that plan and you should win.
Right, definitely. NAU has Coleman Owen, has Brandon Porter, has, if he plays, Hendricks, because I haven't seen him since Weber State. And I don't know. I do know after one of the plays he was limping pretty well. I don't know if he's injured or not. I have not heard. So I hope he's able to play at home. So NAU has some amazing, powerful wide receivers. NAU now also has a really good player at rushing. I think his name is Dryson Hall. Mm-hmm. Someone that, he's a freshman, 5'8", can get into small spaces very easily. Okay. Let's do keys of the game. Okay. For NAU to win, What is your keys to the game?
Man, I'm just gonna sound like a broken record here. I keep jumping ahead. It's gonna be how Wu T plays. If Wu T just does his thing and stands in the pocket and takes his 3 seconds and takes what's open, because Brandon Porter will get open. If Hendricks Johnson's playing, he's gonna get open. If he does that, you guys should win this game. If he gets cute offensively, and then you're just gonna open the door for Idaho, who has had a lot of last-second heroics this year. Most of our games have come down to the wire. The only game you could say really didn't was UC Davis, but that was a weird one where we were up by like 13, and they came back on us and scored like 24 unanswered. So it's like Idaho's been in every game this year. We've won some and we've lost some. We're 2-3 right now. So are you going to be the team that lets us get that third win because you outthink it? Like, I do agree with you. I think Drayson Hall is going to be a good running back. I think it's good that NAU has found a guy like that. At the end of the day, he's not the guy that's going to be the guy who beats Idaho.
Right.
He does have 136 yards against Weber, but other than that, he has 76 yards, 81 yards. So for the whole season. So he's not the dude, including 26 last week. So like he's got potential. Luckily, he gets this free season. He's going to be a guy in 2-3 years, probably be one of the top backs in the league. But he's not the guy. If Tamark Pierce couldn't do it, if Ulonzo Gilliam from UC Davis couldn't do it, like he's not going to be the guy that does it. This defense is not, although gets compared to Weber as far as strength, Weber's strength is in the pass defense. They have really good defensive backs and pretty good outside rushers. But their linebackers and their nose tackles are where their weakness is. Idaho is the opposite. We are built to stop the run. We are built to control tempo and contain quarterbacks with the 3-4 technique. So that's where, though he ran really well on Weber's defense, and Weber is also probably, especially this spring, the second best defense in the Big Sky. First, because they're better than Idaho's because of their pass defense. But, probably the top two there. They're just different defenses, and they're built to stop different things. Drayson Hall, for instance, is not the guy that's going to beat it. It's going to be Brandon Porter and Wood T and Owens.
Yeah, like I said, I am excited. I am excited. So what you're saying for Idaho to win is to make sure that they get their defense up and make sure that no running is allowed and to stop the ball from slinging around.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? We're a day out, so I feel safe to say this. It could be different. We do hear some rumblings of some key players on our defense being out due to, one, the draft around the corner, and two, getting ready for fall, unfortunately. So it's going to make this game a little bit more difficult. But I do have a lot of faith in the guys that are behind them because they've been in the system, and we had really good linebackers before this current crew where we had two guys go to the NFL. So this is more of a reloading position for us at linebacker. So though I'm not going to say who they are, but I expect at least one very important linebacker to not be playing. I still am very confident in Idaho's defense to stop the run, contain the rushing of the quarterback. It's going to come down. The secondary did look improved against Eastern, even though the numbers don't show it. They looked a lot worse than week one. Week one, we benefited from a lot of Eastern drops. This last week, it was a lot of our secondary playing well, but our starting strong safety got injured and a corner got banged up. So that's where Eastern was able to kind of make that stride late and pull out. So I just can't stress enough. It's going to be fun to watch Eastern because NAU, because I think this game, the key to this game is so simple, and it is how Wood T plays. I 100% believe if he just takes his reads and takes it, it'll almost feel like a cakewalk. I don't think he'll blow us out, but one of those games where the score might be 30-20, but it felt so much bigger, I think that's a real possibility in this game. If Wood T can just 3-step drop, 5-step drop, 1 read, 2 read, throw it. He should beat us. That is the fact of the game. NAU has the blueprint to win in this game. They have the upper hand in this game. I haven't checked the Vegas odds. I would imagine they might not actually be favored. This might be money for the betting people, but I will check this when you're talking. But in my opinion, NAU should be the favorite in this game. I think excluding Idaho with a quarterback even, our defensive blueprint to beat us has been exposed by the 3 teams that have beat us and most of the teams that have almost beat us. So the blueprint's there. You got the benefit of having this at the end of the year. Had we played this in week 3, maybe it's different. You get our stud freshman quarterback. You don't really know what to expect out of the defense. We're full strength. This game, I think, would have leaned a little bit more Idaho's way. But seeing the game plan, what Idaho State was able to do to Southern Utah, Eastern the second time, like Idaho's only thing they got going for us is we might have a gimmicky offense that you might not know what to prepare for. But at the end of the day, it's a very unproven guy who wasn't even a quarterback coming into the season, despite how he played last week. So for NAU, it's simple. You're going to have a couple big shock plays from Idaho's offense. Borish is going to break off probably a 30-yard run, maybe for a touchdown. But you can live with those if you're just sitting back and throwing at your reads. I mean, this is going to be such a simple, like if people are interested in the schematics of football, this is going to be one of those games where it is going to be so simple to kind of like learn what it is. It is, if Wuti looks like he's hopping and bouncing feet, NAU will lose this game. If Wuti looks confident and is delivering the rock from the pocket, NAU should win this game. It's going to be actually very exciting to watch for how boring that sounds, but from a schematic sense, I think this is going to be very interesting because it's just so simple. It's literally who can do it better.
Right. Now, I want to ask you a question regarding the Idaho Vandals side. Okay. When it comes to NAU and Coach Chris Ball,
yeah,
going into this Saturday, Coach Chris Ball's record is 6-10. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Idaho coming down from the FBS to the FCS. They are currently 8-13 in Big Sky play. Now, here's the issue. When they came down to the FCS, everyone was saying that they were going to be the sleeping giant, that they were going to be the winners of the Big Sky year after year after year, and that hasn't been seen yet. If they go to NAU and they lose 2-4, what does that say? Do you think that there's just going to be some changes needing to be done inside the Idaho organization?
Probably, but they won't happen. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I personally am one of the minority who actually still kind of believes in Paul Petrino. Now, I will be the first one to say 2018 and 2019, what I think he did with the quarterback decision. I love Mason. We've had him on the show. I'm glad he's got a GA opportunity, I think at Purdue or Lamar or wherever he is. Like, he's a good kid, and he was one heck of a tough son of a gun. But, I mean, he was just not the answer. You've seen the guy who was third string behind him, come in and smoke Southern Utah. Like, the option was there. It wasn't hiding. It's not like we didn't have a quarterback. So it's kind of unforgivable. The people that aren't super familiar with, I guess, quarterback situation, you saw his career game last year. Mason Petrino, Coach Petrino's son, has quarterbacked this team last 3 games of 2017 and 2018-19. And that's why, Casey, you brought up the sleeping giant thing, was because in 2016, we went 9-4 with 2 of our losses to number 4 in the country who went to the college football playoff, Washington, and number 9 in the country, Washington State. So, like, we had 2 big FBS losses to really good FBS teams that year, and then had like a loss against Troy, who I think ended up finishing second, in Appalachian State. Like, teams that you lose to. Went 9-4. We're 14-point dogs. Colorado State in our bowl game blew them out. The score was one of those deceiving scores. It was like 63-50, but they literally gave the team their hats and shirts at the start of the fourth quarter. They were up like 30-something points to start the fourth, and then we just weren't caring, and they almost got it back. But you get this 2017, and Idaho gets through their tough part of the schedule. Once again, you lose by 3 against Troy on the game that Matt Linehan goes down and Mason Petrino comes in. You also then you have Mason start the last 2 games. You at that point when Matt Linehan goes down, you are 3-5 with the easy part of your schedule against losing teams that you very much should have beaten and beat last year to go 6-6. And Idaho comes into the FCS as back-to-back. Who knows if we would have won the bowl, but back-to-back bowl appearances, right? And then you have a little bit more of that, like, okay, this is why Idaho is what it is. Fortunately, the way 2017 went, it burned some of the players when they saw how the quarterback decision was made, saw the writing on the wall. We ended up having, I think, like 27-something players walk off the team that year. Part of it is we had to cut scholarships, so, like, we weren't necessarily fighting for them to stay either. But I think that's the misnomer is, like, people forget that we went from 85 scholarships to within 2 weeks having to be at 63 or whatever the FCS limit is, like we had to lose some players. So it's not like we were bringing this full FBS. That's why we were eligible for the playoffs right away. We went from full blown, basically not signing enough players so we could make sure that class left and we would meet the scholarship requirement. That kind of gutted us. Then the quarterback situation happened and now you are where you are. Now, when Paul won that bowl game, he got a big long extension. Then when we dropped down, like we said, he played decent in 17. We decided to tack on a clause that said if he was still on the squad in like 2020, he would get like a 2-year automatic extension for sticking out 2 years in the FCS. Well, obviously he did that because he played his son and knew the extension or whatever would click. So now we have until 2022. So Paul's not going anywhere. He's I believe the second highest paid coach in the FCS, which he's not putting up those numbers, but at the same time, Idaho doesn't have the money to fire him either. If he's making that, we have to pay his salary if we cut him out of in contract. So that's the problem. A lot of people would have loved to see him leave. They would have loved to see him leave actually after 2017. He wasn't even that popular when we were winning bowl games, but the way his contract's written, we're stuck with him. And he knew he was safe to start his son. He knew his contract, and that's where Idaho is where it is. Now, if Idaho loses this game and they finish 2-4, the heat is going to be there, and there's going to be more people being vocal, and the fall is finally that year where if he can't put it together this fall, you only really have 1 year left on that contract, then it's buyoutable. Like, I assume NAU has a pretty good endowment. I know they have a pretty strong alumni base. It's like, for you guys, yeah, you understand it. Like, do you want to fork over $460,000 to buy a coach out of their contract? No. Like, you'd rather put it towards something else, scholarship fund or whatever, but for Idaho, with what we've seen, at that point, he would have been here for 9 years, the longest coach in Idaho history, and the results don't match what, 1, he's being paid, and 2, to justify being the longest tenured coach in Idaho history. So fall is the big year, but you bet your bottom dollar that if Idaho finishes 2-4 this year, it puts just that much more pressure on the fall. I don't know how much more could be. Even if we win this game, I think he's in a very similar situation. It's just, at least he has the armor of, well, I went 500 in my 3rd year, right? Like, I went 500. Now, the history books will show it as 3-3, but he can say that and people won't stat check it. We know how the internet works. Like, you can just say, oh, well, he's gone 500 twice. And they'll be like, oh, really? Well, we didn't know it's spring season where we played 3 games, or 6 games. So, unfortunately, it doesn't really matter for Idaho. And I think that's why you're seeing some players possibly not want to play is, 500 is big. It can build some momentum. But we've already seen what we want to see from our quarterback position. The only things we really want to see more out of are our running back and our secondary. So we're probably going to see a little bit of that. But for Idaho, this game, I hope they don't just roll out sleepwalking. But I do fear a lack of momentum in this game where I don't think the 500 number is as big for the team as it is for NAU. Now, I have heard that Paul has a contract or a thing in his contract where if he goes 500, he gets like $20,000 or $30,000. I imagine Paul wants that, but he's one guy with a team of 63 dudes who are like, okay, well, we don't get $30,000 for showing up for this game, but I also don't think these guys are going to – they have competed all year. I'm not saying I expect them to literally not care. I'm just saying, like, if NAU gets rolling early –
good luck.
Yeah, and expect Idaho to maybe literally start to phone it in.
Yeah, definitely. All right. What is your final score prediction for the game?
So on our show, I think I said 31-30 NAU, something like that. Looking at the numbers, though I do respect NAU's offense, like I said, Idaho just hasn't given up 30 points frequently. The fact that we've held Eastern Washington to 14 this season gives me a lot of hope. But like I said, we're going to miss some guys. So I'm going to lower my score prediction a little bit. And I'll go 28-26 NAU. I just don't think you guys break that 30 mark. But I still think, like I said, if Ball can't figure out this game plan, NAU should probably start looking inward on your coaching decisions because, I mean, I could be wrong. Obviously, I'm not a coach. I'm a guy who gets paid basically in beer to talk about the Idaho Vandals. So
there you go.
I could be 100% wrong here. But if I'm Chris Ball, the blueprint's there. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
So if anything, Idaho, I think NAU losing maybe shows more about what NAU needs to figure out than Idaho. Idaho, we've had Petrino for 8 years. We know what Petrino is. We know he's probably going to use a dumb timeout to argue with the ref, or he's going to get a personal foul penalty, or our team is going to do something super undisciplined. It's just what happens, and we're used to it. Where NAU, you might learn a little bit about your coach of like, you mentioned, we've been competitive. Every game we played is competitive, whether it's Southern Utah, Idaho State, Eastern Washington. Everybody's kept us close, and I think it's because that blueprint's there. Now, some teams like Eastern Washington and UC Davis have the talent to beat us, whereas teams like Southern Utah do not. I think NAU is one of those teams that has the talent to pull it off. So we'll just see if they do.
Yes, we will. All right, well, like always, it's a pleasure to have you on. Before I let you go, is there any last words?
Yeah, if you guys ever want to follow the Vandals for whatever reason, we're always looking for people to hop on our bandwagon. I mean, Lumberjacks and Vandals, we got human mascots. We can have friend-to-me alliances here. You can check us out, Tubs at the Club, everywhere you get a podcast. If you literally can't find it anywhere, please DM me, and we'll make sure you can find it there. You also find us live on Tuesdays during the season. Our show also posts in podcast form on Thursday. We also will be doing a post-game reaction on Saturday. So if you want to see us really pouting over NAU beating us, 30 minutes after the NAU game, we'll be live on YouTube as well doing that. We will be going a review next week, and then we go bi-weekly. We always take June off. So we really only have 3 more episodes. So I guess it's a bad time to try to check us out, but we got over 100 and something episodes, so you can go back catalog it if you want. But yeah, check us out. At least give us a like and a rating if you liked what I said. I mean, for God's sakes, a pick your team. That should get us a thumbs up and a 5-star at least.
Hey, there you go. Anyone that picks the Lumberjack should get my like, right?
There we go.
All righty. Chris, thank you so much. We'll talk soon, okay?
Au revoir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again for listening. Final thoughts. Listen, a loss for Idaho puts them at 2-4 for the spring season. Not very monster numbers for a supposed sleeping monster in the Big Sky. A monster that we have not seen yet in the Big Sky. A win for NAU puts them at 3-2. The first time NAU has been above 500 since 2017. Also, a win for NAU puts them in a position to get enough excitement for the fall season that just happens a few months later, where NAU gets in the number 2 in the nation in FCS for the recruiting class. All those new freshmen, top-tier freshmen come in. NAU has a good team. They almost, by this much, almost beat Weber State, who was at the time number 2 in the nation. Well, that is it from me. I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your night. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Well, actually, watching. And I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget, the game is tomorrow, 1 o'clock Arizona time. on Pluto TV, a free TV app. You can find me at NAU Podcast on Twitter, the NAU Sports Show on Facebook. If you want to message me either one of those places. Again, have a great night. Until we talk again, always remember, never forget, root NAU. Have a good night.